welcome to our English news edition coming to you from Canal, Algérie. To the headlines. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, signs a presidential decree pertaining to the voluntary membership of the national community abroad to the national retirement system. Under the high patronage of the President of the Republic, Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman chairs the opening ceremony of the Algerian Non-Hydrocarbons Exports Forum. Ahead of the upcoming Arab Summit, the national and foreign journalists are endowed with all the necessary human and material means to ensure an extensive and successful coverage. And social turmoil keeps marking the everyday life of the Moroccan cities, being the scene of huge demonstrations. Good evening, those were the headlines. First in our news, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, signed on Thursday a presidential decree on voluntary membership of the national community settled abroad to the national system of retirement. The said decree carries a voluntary membership of members of the national community abroad of employees and non-salaried heads of companies to the national system in Algeria. The decree was signed and sent to the General Secretariat for its publication in the official Gazette. The President of the Republic has pledged during his various meetings and visits abroad to respond to the concerns of our community that was repeatedly raised by our nationals living abroad. The Algerian community settled abroad hailed this decision, which comes in line with the guidelines of the President of the Republic during his meetings with them on several occasions. This move will help them to enjoy the retirement according to the regulations put in place by the Algerian law.
Décortiquer le texte de décret qui sera publié au journal officiel pour comprendre les modalités pratiques de ce principe intéressant. En tout cas, politiquement, le geste est très important puisqu'il envoie un signal à la communauté nationale algérienne à l'étranger. Nous disons, nous en France, les franco-algériens ou les citoyens algériens résidant à l'étranger. Il envoie un message positif comme quoi cette communauté fait partie de préoccupations permanentes.
Under the high patronage of the President of the Republic, Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman presided over the opening of the proceedings of the Exports Forum organized by the Algerian Council for Economic Renewal. This took place in the presence of the advisors of the President of the Republic as well as national economic operators. During his opening speech, the Prime Minister recalled that the Algerian non-hydrocarbons products reach $5 billion. He also recalled that the President of the Republic personally advocates the accompaniment of the investors and economic operators by granting them all kinds of facilitations for the valorization of the national product and the revival of national economy. Let us now have a listen to the statement made by the Algerian Prime Minister while taking the floor during the event.
كما وجه السيد رئيس الجمهورية دعوة خاصة وصادقة لجميع
The President of the Republic launched a call to the nationalist businessmen as well as to state and private companies in order to invest and benefit from several facilities in their approach. They will also benefit from necessary support to increase production and move towards international markets. The public authorities pledge to enhance national production and not only to boost it, in order to upgrade production from a qualitative and quantitative point of view through a better foreign economic policy in order to meet the needs of the national market. It will make it possible to protect the product and the national producer and also to maintain external balances. You should know that the revenue of the non-hydrocarbon exports of September 13, 2022 reached $5 billion. I hope we will increase the number. It's a challenge that we are called upon to reach to $10 billion by the end of the year 2023, thanks to you, the economic operators. I am sure that we will take up the challenge. We will all work hand in hand. We will spare no effort to accompany you, because the public authorities of the new Algeria are not and will never be an obstacle for economic operators. On the contrary, they will be a support to concretize your projects.
Let us now shed light on the proceedings of this forum made up of several panels to help the economic operators achieve their projects and upgrade the national economy. Ines Kilou tells us more.
Between experts and national economic operators, this year's Export Forum was a great success. The event was organized by the Algerian Economic Renewal Council under the motto Economic Development and Export.
We are meeting today to find a solution to develop the non-hydrocarbon export. It became necessary to elaborate a global vision with the participation of all the economic operators as well as all the institutions of the state.
Several facilitations will be granted to Algerian economic operators, notably through outlining of fiscal charges and the digitization of the fiscal system. These aids are intended to boost the country's non-hydrocarbon exports.
We witnessed that there is a huge will to stick to the points discussed during this meeting related to improving the export climate.
There is a great improvement concerning the exportation. Our goal is to export more Algerian products. For its part, the government is working to increase the volume of non-hydrocarbon exports to 10 billion, more than the revenue expected by the end of 2022.
In another activity, Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman inaugurated on Thursday the new Algerian Agency for Investment Promotion in Dar al Baida in Algiers, as well as the one-stop shop for projects of more than 2 billion dinars. The inauguration ceremony was attended by the advisor of the President of the Republic in charge of economic affairs, Yassine Ould Moussa, members of the government, as well as representatives of organizations involved in investment. In a different context, the President of the National People's Assembly, Brahim Boughali, received on Thursday a delegation of the Executive Bureau of the European Coordination for Solidarity with the Sahrawi People, headed by Pierre Gallon. During the meeting, Brahim Boughali reiterated Algeria's position towards the fair causes and its attachment to work in order to allow the oppressed people to practice the right for self-determination. For his part, Pierre Gallon affirmed that the EU COCO is currently working to readjust the action of the movement of solidarity with the Sahrawi people following the latest developments marked by the recent position of the President of the Spanish government. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community Settled Abroad, Ramdan Al-Amamra, received on Thursday the Norwegian State Secretary, Erling Rimstad, who is on a working visit. The two parties displayed a great deal of satisfaction regarding bilateral relations between Algeria and Norway. They also tackled the prospects of their consolidation and diversification in various sectors. Erling Rimstad was equally received by the Energy Minister Mohamed Arqab, a meeting during which the two parties discussed the investment opportunities as well as ways and means to strengthen cooperation, notably in the energy sector. In another development, and as part of the Algerian-Russian military cooperation, a detachment of warships from the Russian Baltic Sea docked in Algeria. The fleet that docked on Wednesday is composed of two corvettes, Stoichi and Scuba Zentli. The commander of this mission, accompanied by his crew, carried out a courtesy visit to the commander of the to the command of the Central Maritime Facade of the 1st Military Region. During this halt, the execution of an exercise of the Joint Maritime Maneuver named 2022 in our territorial waters will be carried out with the participation of 2 units of our maritime forces. That it aims at strengthening the military cooperation between Algeria and Russia. Everything is finally ready to host the upcoming Arab Summit planned in Algiers, including national and foreign journalists who will be endowed with all the necessary means to accomplish their mission in the most favorable conditions. Story by Rania Al-Bahri.
Few days before the big Arab meeting, preparations are in full swing at the level of the International Conference Center in order to ensure the success of the media coverage of the Algiers Summit. The International Press Center has put everything in place to ensure the success of the media coverage of the Arab Summit, scheduled for November the 1st and 2nd. Advanced equipment and competent human resources have been put in place to facilitate the work of the Algerian and foreign journalists. The International Press Center will provide journalists with 2 newsrooms equipped with modern technological materials. 2 studios and 6 TV sets will also be available to various TV channels. National and foreign media professionals, journalists, directors or technicians will all have the task of ensuring an extensive coverage of the summit and the reactions of the participants. I was responsible for producing various Algerian television programs that will be aired from here. My technical team and I hope to be up to the expectations and successfully cover this important event. A particular importance is given to the next summit of Algiers, organized under the aim of unification of the ranks. Its recommendations and resolutions are eagerly awaited by Arab media in view of the current developments being witnessed by the world.
In a different story, the 46th Conference of the European Coordination for Support and Solidarity with the Sahrawi People will take place in Berlin on the 2nd and 3rd of December, according to the president of the movement, Pierre Gallon, who hailed Algeria's firm position regarding the respect of international legality. And at the invitation of the Algerian National Committee of Solidarity with the Sahrawi People, the Task Force EU COCO met in Algiers, an opportunity for Obi Bouchraya al-Bashir, the representative of the Polisario Front in Europe, and Abdelkader Talib Omar, the ambassador of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic in Algeria, to present the task force members a detailed presentation on the current situation of the Western Saharan conflict and the challenges to be met. And the UN Security Council is called upon to hold a referendum on Western Sahara, a call launched by the South African president and his Sahrawi counterpart during his 3-day state visit to Pretoria. More details with Rania Al-Bahri.
The 3-day state visit of the President Ghali to the Republic of South Africa was marked by fruitful discussions, during which they reviewed several issues of common interest. How the 2 presidents jointly call on the Security Council to favor the holding of a referendum on Western Sahara and allow the Sahrawi people to exercise their right to self-determination. The MINURSO should also be mandated to control, protect, establish reports on human rights, but also protect natural resources against any illegal plunder. You should know that the visit of the President of the Sahrawi Republic to South Africa gave a strong signal for the right to self-determination of the Sahrawi people. The 2 heads of state also go over many issues of common interest at the continental and international bilateral level. The South African president also reiterated his unconditional support for the Sahrawi cause, a position also supported by Pedro Castillo, president of Peru at the UN. The Republic of Peru has resumed diplomatic relations with the Sahrawi Republic and reiterated its support for the self-determination of the Sahrawi people. A recognition also announced by South Sudan, which has re-established its diplomatic relations with the Sahrawi Democratic Republic, as well as Kenya, which foiled the plot of the Makhzen with the recognition of the right of the Sahrawi people to self-determination. Since the resumption of the armed struggle on November 13, 2020, several countries have reacted not only in Africa but also in Latin America. We have also renewed our diplomatic relations with Colombia, Bolivia and Peru. The Sahrawi file is enjoying unprecedented support throughout the world, in particular with the re-establishment of diplomatic relations with several countries, which testifies to their attachment to respect for international legality and the right of the people to self-determination and the sovereignty of the Sahrawi Democratic Republic.
Social turmoil keeps mounting in Morocco, with further demonstrations held across the country to denounce misery and the harsh living conditions. A case in point, Casablanca, the venue of huge protests. Najah Tayyar has the details.
Like several Moroccan cities, Casablanca lives to the rhythm of demonstrations and protests. Hundreds of Moroccans have taken to the streets, calling for lower prices of food products and fuels and the improvement of their purchasing power.
For us as Moroccans and consumers, we are fed up. Leaders must be in line with the people, but not the opposite as they are doing. Just like the increase in fuel prices, they decreased 90 dirhams, then the next day they raised the price more than it was before. Deprived of their most basic rights, the Moroccans say they are fed up with the fake promises of their country's leaders and demand a radical change. Where are these chances and programs you talked about? It's all lies, a call to the oppressed and the ones who care for this country. This government is collecting treasures at the expense of the poor and want to build the country at their expense too. The Moroccans are showing an unshakable will and continuing their protests and organizing sit-ins in the hope of putting an end to the injustice of which they have claimed to be its victims for far too long.
Two big games today as part of the National Football Championship. USM Algiers, following its progress to the next round of the African CAF competition, takes on GS Saura, while GS Kabylie faces ES Serif in a mouth-watering match to the great delight of football lovers. That was it for our today's news edition. Thank you for tuning in and goodbye.